Good evening. Some of Britain's toughest crimes to crack, but more than 1 in every 4 is now directly solved by Crimewatch viewers. This month we hope to bring an end to sex attacks in East Anglia and solve the murder of Julie Smales in County Durham.
Can you help find the man responsible for GBH in Bristol and identify 2 men who met their match when they tried to rob a pensioner on Humberside?
Rape is on the increase. That is, if you believe the official figures. But part of the growth in the statistics is plainly because more women are now prepared to report attacks. Rising crime figures sometimes simply mean that we're becoming rather more open about things. Now, that's especially true of another type of rape, one that's maybe much more common than we imagine, but which is often too disturbing to report: the rape of men and boys.
Now, this is an account of what happened a month ago in Cressing, near Braintree in Essex, on Thursday, the 13th of March.
There's always something in the back of your mind if they're 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late. You know generally nothing really bad has happened, but there's always a little bit in your mind that perhaps.
He's just a very special child to us. Very much loved child. My instinct is to be a little bit overprotective, but you can't be. He's 14. He's got to be allowed to do these things. I wasn't 100% happy about him using the bike, but that's mainly because of the safety on the road.
He's an extrovert to a certain extent, but he's fun-loving, plays with his friends. It's a normal life, it's childhood. The journey to the school is just 3 miles, so it takes him no time at all. This time, he was by himself, and he had the puncher, so he was walking. That's the difference.
I was just finished repairing some bollards at Millennium Way, and I had to go off to my next job, which takes you back up to the Crampons roundabout. There I noticed this gentleman walking along by our lighting pillar. He was very smart looking, blue denim suit, short black hair, so I'd say mid-20s, late 20s, about 5'7", 5'8". I noticed him because it was rare to see a black person in the area.
The route across the field it's an open field. Other than in the middle, there is this nature reserve. It's not in the depths of the countryside. It's a cut across away from the main road. It's behind houses. It's not a hidden pathway. It's open. You just feel it's got to be quite safe.
This is private property. You can't go up there. I'm working up there. You can't go up there either. I'm working up there as well.
Well, why not?
This is private property. You can't go up there. You'll have to go along the public footpath.
It's a terrible assault on him. It was rape. Nobody can comprehend what that means to the child. Very few adults go through that sort of experience. My son has gone through it.
I heard him crying at the top of his voice, "Mum, Mum." I couldn't stop shaking and saying I thought he was going to kill me. And then he started to say, why me? I just wanted to take the hurt away. And I said, if I could take it away, I wish I could, but I can't change it. I'm so sorry.
Oi, look at him. He's fit.
He was heading for the B1018 Braintree Road. 4 days later, a strikingly similar man was seen in the nearby village of Felsted.
Well, at that particular time, there's not many people in the village, and I know practically, you know, all the people in the village, and this guy stood out. Very smartly dressed, and in this denim, you know, jacket and trousers, and carrying these bunch of keys.
We were just standing there talking, and then this stranger, really, he walked straight past us and glanced at us, and then he sort of like gave us a bit of a death stare sort of thing. When he walked past, that's when we got a good look at him, and we noticed all the designer stuff.
Is he still looking at us?
No, he's gone now. Think he's a burglar? Oh, there he is again.
I don't like the look of him at all.
He was wearing all denim. On the jacket, there was Moschino around the bottom of it, and his jeans, we saw the Moschino emblem on the back.
All right, lads. Things all right? Dodgy bloke over there.
And then James went round the corner of the church just to see what he was doing, really. Don't know why he did it.
As I was going round, I sort of bumped into him. Got a really good look at him then. He had a red mobile phone cover and a phone on the right-hand belt. I mean, I was convinced he was going to do a burglary.
I felt it was strange when he came in that he didn't come near the counter.
10 marble lights.
Which ones are those?
I don't know. 10 marble lights.
He'd got like a perfect round face and really round eyes. His hairline was absolutely perfect. He was early 20s. He was about 5'8". He was dressed very, very smart. His denim looked like it had been pressed almost.
See you, lads. See you, lads.
Was this the same man who raped the 14-year-old in Cressing? Detective Superintendent Brian Story, the attacker is obviously a very dangerous man. How convinced are you that the man seen in Felsted was the rapist?
There are striking similarities, in particular the attacker's description and the Moschino clothing that was seen. If the man in Felsted is not responsible for the rape, then it's absolutely imperative that he rings here tonight so that we can quickly eliminate him from the inquiry.
Because you do have DNA.
We do have scientific evidence, and it will be an easy process for us to eliminate him from the inquiry.
What's the best description you've got of the rapist himself?
The victim has been able to give us a very detailed description of the attacker. He describes him as being black, in his early 20s, about 5'8" to 5'9" inches tall, of medium build. He's clean shaven, he's got short black hair, which is described as being or having a flat top appearance.
Now his clothing, the man seen in Felsted, was rather designer-led, really designer-orientated. What clothing was the rapist wearing?
Of smart appearance, it was matching light-coloured blue denim jacket and jeans. He was also wearing a black jumper. The victim says that around the bottom of the black jumper is the words Moschino written in white. We made inquiries with Moschino, and they say that they don't actually produce a jumper of this type. So it could be that the writing is around the bottom of the denim jacket, it could be that it's a belt, or it could be a waistband that's showing through with Moschino on it.
You say you've got DNA, you've got genetic fingerprinting, and I gather you're absolutely satisfied there's been another attack by the same man, at least one other.
Yes, there has been another attack in the Newmarket area of Suffolk some 6 months previously on another child.
Now, Peter Warburg, you were looking into that earlier attack. I think you're now supervising both of these inquiries. Tell us what happened in the earlier incident.
At about 8 p.m. on Friday the 27th of September last year, an 11-year-old boy was abducted from outside his house in Newmarket and taken to nearby playing fields where he was raped. We know the same man is responsible and clearly need to identify him before he attacks again.
Now, some attention has been paid to hairstyles. I believe that perhaps the style has changed over the last 6 months or so.
Yes, 6 months ago his hair was combed forward. Now it appears to be brushed back, is flat on the top and much shorter around the side and the back. Another change relates to his clothing. On both attacks he was wearing denim jeans and jacket, but the difference is at Newmarket there was no mention of the Moschino brand label. Instead, the victim recalls seeing a Children in Need badge like this attached to the jacket.
Brian described him as black. The pictures we showed there are sort of indeterminate, and I gather there's some doubt about whether he might be Mediterranean, Arabic or what?
Yes, we cannot be certain about his ethnic origin. What we are certain about is that both victims describe him as black, but with light skin. During the filming of the reconstruction, some of the witnesses who have actually seen the man have told us that the actor's skin colour is a very good likeness.
Now, one attack, as we've heard, was in Newmarket in Suffolk, another in Braintree in Essex. He may have been seen in Felsted. He has quite a broad patch, doesn't he?
Yes, he certainly seems to be moving around a little bit, and we believe clearly has a knowledge of those areas. We feel he probably has his own transport, a car, perhaps a van, or even a lorry, and at some stage has probably had some either family or business connections in both of those areas. We need to try and establish tonight what that link may be.
All right, thank you both very much indeed. If you can help me anyway, these are horrible crimes and they're repeating crimes. Here's the number 0500 600 600. It's a free call here to the studio live, or you can call the incident room in Bury St Edmunds. That's on 01284 774 170. That's Bury St Edmunds 774 170. But before we leave this case, there's a postscript, if you like, a positive aspect, which shows how victims can be survivors, and even in their own way, heroes. The father we heard from earlier in Cressing picks up the story where we left off.
The assault took place on a Thursday, but my son, of his own volition, knew he had to get back into his almost normal life, and went to school on the Monday. We took him there on the Monday. He wanted to go in, and he did. He went in and faced the public again, I suppose you say. He knew it had to be done, and he coped, was able to do it.
0500 600 600 or 01284 774 170. That's Bury St Edmunds 774 170.
Things often move pretty quickly after calls here to the programme, and indeed last month there were 3 arrests, 2 of them overnight. One was for very serious sexual offences, 2 others for deception. As a result of the programme, another police force has also expressed an interest in a man who was identified by viewers. Edward Adler inspired 20 viewers to ring in with information. He's wanted in connection with a murder, and it's thought he saw himself on Crimewatch. Police say they now have a new line of inquiry, but he's disappeared. Please call us now if you know where he is tonight. This is Graham Morgan, who was spotted in Chichester in Sussex by a viewer, but he disappeared before police arrived. Again, please call if you know where he is tonight.
We've also now identified these men who were trying to get into some offices in Notting Hill in West London. The company had suffered a plague of burglaries and they put up security cameras, but it turns out the men they filmed weren't burglars. They were bona fide electrical engineers who'd been called to a job and had simply got the wrong address. So egg on face, apologies all round. Now, there's a lot of progress from previous cases, more on that later, but first here's Superintendent David Hatcher.
In fact, we start with a face you might well recognise because we've shown him before. He's Dennis Reardon, who was wanted for questioning over an offence in which someone impersonated a tax officer and conned a woman out of quite a lot of cash. This is what he looked like about a year ago. Now look at him with a beard. This is what he looked like a month or so ago. He's pictured in a travel agency in Oxfordshire. Staff were conned into thinking they were dealing with an auditor from head office. They gave access to the safe and till, and the so-called auditor disappeared with the contents. Dennis Reardon is 5'10", heavy build with brown eyes, dark greying hair and scars on his wrists. 0500 600 600 or 01734 536 521. That's Reading 536 521. And now one of the oldest tricks in the book, but don't be stung by this yourself. A conman persuades people he has connections in the retail trade and can get things on the cheap. The victims give him cash and he promptly disappears. Here's a man accused of carrying out this scam all over Britain. In this case, he's leading a victim into a store in Newcastle. He's fairly tall, roughly 6'3", and overweight. His real name is Andrew Peasley, but he seems to adopt all sorts of different names. But he can't disguise his Brummie accent. If you can lead us to him, call 0500 600 600 or call local police on 0191 214 6555. That's Newcastle 214 6555.
I was saying earlier how things can happen quickly on Crimewatch. We've already had the same name called in twice as a suggestion for the male rapist. You know the expression, little old lady? A sort of rather patronising shorthand for women in their 70s or 80s, implying that they're weak and feeble. Well, not always so. We're going back 8 weeks now to mid-February and to Healing outside Grimsby.
Freddie's all right.
We'll find him, don't worry.
You don't think he's been hurt?
No. This is Mrs. MacDonald. She was in the house when she got burgled.
Mr. MacDonald, I can assure you there's no one in the house now.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Do you want to come inside?
Oh, Freddie, thank goodness you...
When I found Freddie was safe, it was such a relief.
There's a good boy.
Since my husband died in September, I bought my little dog, Freddie. And we spend most of our days together. He's a wonderful little companion, and I just couldn't be without him.
Mrs. MacDonald has lived in this house with her family for 30 years.
We've had good times. Very happy times.
Come on, Freddie, come on. There's a good boy. There's a good boy.
Her house is on the Stallingborough Road, the main route between Grimsby and Immingham. Valentine's Day, Friday the 14th of February.
I'm not sure what time it was exactly, but sometime in the morning, I noticed a car parked by the footpath next to the old lady's house. I didn't really take much notice at this point.
Now, 3 days later, Monday the 17th of February.
As I looked outside, I was surprised to see the same car again. This time there were two men with it, and it seemed a bit odd as they didn't look like they were out for a walk in the woods. I wondered what they were up to. They seemed to be coming and going over the fence. When the small one went over the fence again, I got the feeling that the other one was watching me.
They were there for up to half an hour. Who were they? Was their visit innocent? Or was this a dry run for what would happen the next day?
It was a lovely morning. Sun shining.
Where have you been? Come on then, what do you want?
The car was parked in the same position with the two men again dressed in dark clothing. I just saw them climb over the fence and carried on with my business.
Then, 4 or 5 hours later...
We were on our way to the cinema in Hull. When we turned out onto the Stallingborough Road, I noticed that the burgundy car was parked in the same place again, but facing the other way. But there were no sign of the men this time.
We were watching the television. Suddenly he jumped up, ran out of the room.
Freddie!
And as I went to the door, it was almost as if Freddie had been thrown in. I looked round and I just saw the man's face. He was aged about 27 to 30. He appeared to be quite tall. His hair was dark and he had a very neat haircut. I was very frightened. I realised then that there were people that should not be in the house.
Who are you? What are you doing?
I just felt I had to stop them. So I went to my phone, and of course it had been cut. And that is when I decided I had got to get out of the window.
All I wanted to do was get them caught if I could. That was my main thought. They had no business to be here. The traffic was horrific at that time, but I knew I had to get across the road because that was the only way I could find a phone.
Help me. Simon, there's somebody at the door.
OK, I'll get it.
Hello? I've been burgled.
Come on, come in. Are you all right?
Well, I'm all right, but I'm...
You look after Mrs. McDonald, Simon. I'll call the police. Police. My neighbour's being burgled.
I feel very angry that not just me, but hundreds of people have these despicable men in their homes taking what doesn't belong to them. They've never had to work for, maybe. That's how I feel.
Birgit, Mrs. McDonald got a pretty good look at one of the guys. The chap who threw her dog in and slammed the door on her. What's the description? How good a description is it?
I'm confident that the EFIT is a good description. She had a very good view of the man in the hallway. He's described as white, aged 27 to 30 years, with short, dark hair neatly trimmed around his ears, and he was wearing a dark bomber jacket, or a similar jacket.
Now, so too, of course, were the guys outside with the car, and it seems odds on these must have been the blokes casing for the burglary. I suppose it could have been innocent.
It could well have been innocent. The men were wearing dark clothing and bomber jackets, the same as the man in the EFIT.
Both in their 30s? What sort of description have you got of them?
Yes, they were both in their 30s. They were both white, and they both had short hair and were wearing bomber jackets. Certainly, if they're not connected to the crime, then they must have seen something and would be vital witnesses.
Now, the burgundy car, we actually used a Vauxhall Cavalier in the reconstruction. You're not certain that's what it was?
No, it could be a car of similar shape. Certainly it was fairly new and had noticeably bright wheel trims.
Now, there's some things that were left behind at the scene of the burglary. This was used to tie the door handle, a sort of plasticised yellow rope. And these shears, which have got a little label on them saying from Boots the chemist, you don't want to know where these things came from, you know everything you need to know about them. You only want to hear from someone who can identify these in connection with men of that description.
That's correct. They may well have been stolen, they may be missing from somewhere, but we want to hear from people who could positively link these items to the descriptions of the two men.
OK, but by far the best clue is going to be if someone can identify a clock almost identical to this one. Just explain this. Let me explain. This is one of the things stolen in the raid, or at least something very similar.
Yes, a similar clock. The stolen clock was a Delander bracket clock in black wooden ebony casing and had a brass front. Similarly, it had a brass handle at the top. There is fretwork to be seen on the top at the front and the back that on this clock is red, and on the stolen clock was blue and green.
So if you've been offered that as an antiques dealer or silverware like this coaster, this is one of the original set of 4, the other 3 are missing. A whole stack of silverware was stolen. If you can help in any way, if you can identify those faces with that car, with anything here, please call us 0500 600 600, free call number here to the studio, or 01472 254 420. That's the incident room in Grimsby, 01472 254 420. Now with some faces linked to violent crimes, here's Detective Constable Jackie Hames.
On Sunday the 1st of September, Mark Sayer was shot dead at his home in Redcar in Cleveland. 4 men have been charged in connection with the crime, but 2 others may also be able to help with this inquiry. This is Andrew David Monarch. He's 24, 5'10", medium build with short brown hair. On his left arm you'll find a tattoo saying "Only the fittest survive." And this is Anthony Arthur Robinson, 23, 5'9", and he's got darker brown hair. 0500 600 600 or 01642 302 633. That's Redcar 302 633. And this is a young man who slashed another youth across the face with a craft knife. He was found guilty of grievous bodily harm a year or so ago, but has since jumped bail. You may know him as Jason West or Jason Tibbs. He's now 18, 5'7", with fair ginger hair. A warrant's been issued for his arrest, so if you've seen him, do give us a call, 0500 600 600, or call local police on 0171 421 0203. That's 0171 421 0203.
Well, our police officers and researchers are being kept very busy on the phones tonight. Do please keep trying if you find the lines are engaged. Now, let me remind you how eagle-eyed callers can be, even if cases sometimes take a long time to resolve. One dates back to 1994. Now, we showed a lorry hijack in which the driver was kidnapped and dumped in Bedfordshire. Partly as a result of viewers' information, 3 men have been convicted of kidnap, robbery and conspiracy to steal, and another found guilty of theft and conspiracy to steal is now awaiting sentencing. And do you remember this? A body was found on farmland in Hampshire, and this face was reconstructed by the medical artist Richard Neve. One single viewer identified the victim as Harjit Singh Luther. As a direct result, a man and a woman have been arrested and have now been charged with his murder.
And from last October's programme, a man has been jailed for issuing a trail of bogus car insurance policies. After seeing himself on Crimewatch, he gave himself up to the police. And you might like to know that this was quite independent of Crimewatch, that a man's been charged with the murder of Ken Speakman in Kent. If you remember, he was the elderly shooting enthusiast whose collection was stolen right at the height of the controversy over gun control. All the weapons have been recovered by police. Well, now to solve some other violent crime, here's Superintendent David Hatcher.
We start in a cafe in Park Street in the centre of Bristol. There are 2 men on the left, and watch this man walk past them. The 2 are fairly drunk, but described as good-natured. Now the man who just came in approaches the bar for a menu. Eventually he takes a seat, and shortly after that the doorman asks the 2 drinkers to leave. But watch what happens now. For no apparent reason, the other customer races up and lashes out with a bottle. The man he hit was seriously injured. The assailant is slight to medium build, mid-20s, short blonde, tidy hair, and has a Liverpool accent. Please call us now on 0500 600 600 or the police in Bristol 0117 945 5755. That's Bristol 945 5755. Now to a sweet shop and tobacconist in Dundee, and the tape tells its own story. This took place on a Friday evening in early November. While he robs the till, another customer walks in, but there's nothing he can do. The knife man is in his late 20s or early 30s, 5'10", with blonde, spiky hair, and has a Tayside accent. Our number again is 0500 600 600, and the incident room is on 0500 558 999. That's also a free call, 0500 558 999.
Now to the other end of Britain, to the south coast, to Shoreham in Sussex. A man has been menacing residents in this seaside town since January this year. In the worst incident at the beginning of March, a woman was sexually assaulted in broad daylight on the busy Old Shoreham Road. No one took any notice of her screams. Well, her attack has been linked to 7 other incidents. This is the culprit. He's about 50, medium height and build, with snowy white hair, a local accent, and he might well have had a mountain bike. Well, Paul Howes is looking for him. Paul, this happened in broad daylight, as we said, on a busy stretch of road. A lot of people must have seen what went on.
That's correct, yes. The incident occurred on Monday the 3rd of March of this year on the Old Shoreham Road. Now, we know from speaking to the victim that she was approached by the suspect and asked for the time. She got directions from him and continued along the Old Shoreham Road up into the railway bridge where she was attacked. It was a violent attack, during which time her top clothes were ripped off and she thought she was going to be raped. Now, for some reason, he ran away from the scene. We believe he was disturbed either by a train or by a passerby.
It was a dreadful ordeal for her. As we said, this has been linked to more than half a dozen other cases in the same area since the beginning of January?
That's correct, yes. Most of them have been in the Shoreham area of St Mary's Graveyard, where we know the person has been cited by members of the public, and in turn he's either shouted abuse at them or has indecently exposed himself to the people. Now, he's been described by the victim as being about 5'7", medium build, between 45 and 50 years of age, with piercing blue eyes. The most distinguishable thing about him is his white, snowy coloured hair, which is about 3 inches long, and it's like an outgrown crew cut.
And as we say, he may be getting around on a mountain bike.
That's correct.
Now, he's been around for some time, certainly since January. Is he local, do you believe?
Yes, we believe he's local to the Sussex coast area, possibly the Shoreham, the Lancing and the Worthing area. And the last attack was 3 weeks ago on the Shoreham beach, where he just exposed himself to a member of the public. I'm appealing tonight for the public to come forward if they know, if they've seen this man, and I urge them to ring up now with any information they may have.
Obviously a very dangerous man, because he could very likely attack again.
Yes, he is, yes, and I no doubt he will attack again.
Paul House, thank you very much indeed. Well, here's the number if you think you can help. 0500 600 600, or please call the incident room if you prefer on 01273 665 744. That's Brighton, 665 744.
Closed-circuit cameras have done a lot to reduce offences on town centre streets, but increasingly cameras mounted inside buildings are solving break-ins too, especially when the cameras are well sighted to get close-ups of people's faces, and best of all when they're hidden so burglars don't know where they are. In this case, a factory in Horsham, Sussex has a sophisticated system which picks out intruders. They wander around at ease, picking out things to steal, unaware they're being watched by the electric eye. But who are they? This one's in his early 30s, 5'8", with short receding hair and a dark complexion. His accomplice is younger and taller, late 20s, 5'10", with short brown hair. If you recognise either of them, 0500 600 600, or the Horsham Police on 01243 520 295. That's a Chichester code, 521 295.
The most remarkable results we're getting so far on those male rapes. We've had, last I saw, 86 calls, but I think they're coming in all the time still. The same name has now been given 3 times. I think equally significant, 3 possible victims, other victims not known so far to the police, have come forward as well. There's perhaps a sighting of the offender last week in the St Neots area in Lincolnshire. On Mr. Reardon, who was wanted for the fraud where he pretended he was an auditor, we've got sightings of him tonight, and a possible new victim there has come forward too, in the northeast of England. And Andrew Peasley, one person believed that he overheard him recently discussing what he thinks was another deception. Another believes that he is a victim of Andrew Peasley. So calls are coming in thick and fast as I speak. Jill.
Well, we hope your calls will help us in our next case, an appeal for witnesses to murder, several of them, though they may be unaware of what was going on at the time. Think back to October, especially if you live in County Durham. Julie Smales was found dead at her home in Ledgate near Consett. Various details about the crime have been withheld until now, but inquiries have reached the point where, if this murder is ever going to be solved, public help is crucial.
Katie, if you get a chance, can you do those for us, pet?
Thanks a lot.
See ya.
Julie worked for Sun Computers. She joined when she was 18, and in the 9 years since, she'd earned a series of promotions from assembly line to management. But she wasn't just efficient, she was really popular.
Julie's one of the nicest people I know. She used to say if I ever had a problem of any sort, whether it was private or to do with work, I just had to go and tell her. Last time we went out was for my birthday. She's the first one on the dance floor. She was. She was the last one to leave as well. She's just so full of life. It was unbelievable.
I'm just going to nip for a tab. If anyone calls, tell them I'm in a meeting, all right?
This is outside Julie's house.
It's the first time I'd seen a car parked on that drive. I thought, it must be the new boyfriend of the girl who lives there.
Hello.
The way he reacted when he saw me looking at him, he was quite taken aback. He didn't want me to see what we had in that bag. I'd describe him as late 20s, early 30s, about 5'3" tall, stocky, athletic sort of build, with a square sort of face.
Newcastle have scored again, ma'am. We're slaughtering them.
These chips are cold.
Well, why don't you stick them in the microwave for a couple of minutes?
Do you want a cuppa?
Is the Pope Catholic?
What?
Mother man. Yes, I do. Of course I do. Please.
So, Ginola really performing tonight. That was fantastic.
She was more than just a daughter, you know. She was such a good friend. She was, I don't know how to put it into a word, you know, but she was it. And a very, very special relationship we had.
They now lead on aggregate by...
We were in the process of doing the living room up, and it was going to be my job to make the curtains. And when we'd actually finished, Julie was absolutely delighted. Over the moon she was.
Come on, Mum, got the camera.
Oh,
Back
no.
down. Come on, in the middle of the curtains.
Oh, you know I hate
You look
photographs. Come on.
gorgeous, shut up. I'll tell you, Mum, I didn't know you could make curtains. Oh,
Come on, hurry yourself up, will you?
All right, wave for the flash, smile.
I loved being part of our life and trying to do the motherly things, you know, that mothers do for their kids. She let me into her life. And I felt very privileged, you know.
Right, well, when do you want a hand?
It'll have to be the weekend now. What about Sunday?
Right, I'll see you on Sunday.
All right,
then. I'll give you a hand.
Cheers, Mum. Hey, thanks for those curtains. They're beautiful.
Beautiful curtains for a beautiful daughter. Okay. See you later.
Bye.
Just around the corner, about the same time, 10:30 on Tuesday, the 29th of October.
Is anyone going to pay or what?
I picked them up from the taxi office and took them to Leadgate. There were 3 pleasant young lads. When I dropped them off, I think they were just decided to have a giggle with the driver and just walked off without paying. £1.60.
The £1.60 isn't important now, but guys, if you're watching, you're almost certainly crucially important witnesses, though you won't know why. Please call in right away.
I finished my late shift and as normal took my dog for a walk. Good boy. Good boy. And I looked down the field and saw a silhouette of a person, and I thought to myself, walking a dog down that area that time of night, I wouldn't do that.
If that was you out walking behind Park Terrace on that Tuesday night, please ring us now.
Contact the Australian Embassy!
About 1 o'clock, I heard some bangs, and I got up to see if I could see anybody or anything.
The noise seemed to be coming from the direction of Julie's house.
I couldn't, so I got back into bed. Then about 20 minutes later,
I switched the television off when I heard footsteps of a young lady coming along the back. I could tell it was a young lady because she was in a hurry and she had high heels on. I thought to myself, fancy a young woman being out this time of the night.
Was this you or someone you know? This is another key witness.
Fire brigade, please, yeah.
When firemen got there, Julie was already dead, not from fire, but from stabbing and strangulation. Well, Detective Superintendent Bob Hall, a lot of pointers there. Let's look at one or two of them in detail. The woman seen walking down the road. What can you tell us about her?
Well, I would certainly be very, very interested in speaking to this lady. She's described as a female wearing a duffel coat. The hood was up, and that is unfortunately the only description we have.
Now, 2 weeks earlier, the man seen in Julie's driveway. What do you know about him?
Yes, he had a Datsun Stanza motor car. Very unusual for anyone to be parked there on Julie's drive. Again, we've made extensive inquiries. We haven't traced him. We'd like him to come forward, or if anyone knows of him, to do so.
What sort of height was he?
He's about 5'3", which is short for a male. We think that's because he was stooped down at the time, so he's likely to be taller.
But he was definitely driving a Datsun Stanza car. Now, you have to cover all angles of Julie's life, obviously. I know she'd taken to advertising in Lonely Hearts columns, hadn't she?
Yes, well, Julie was a single person. She had advertised in the local Love Lines column of the Northern Echo newspaper and had been reproduced in the Advertiser series. We would like anyone who did contact Julie to contact us, or in fact if Julie has herself contacted anyone.
Of course, I mean, they may be embarrassed to contact you, but they will be dealt with in the strictest confidence.
Everything in confidence, yes.
She'd led quite a lively nightlife as well.
Yes, well, I've spent 5.5 months investigating Julie's death. She was a professional lady, well liked. Like a lot of the age group that Julie was, she did like the club scene. She did go to raves and licensed premises, particularly in Leeds, Darlington and Middlesbrough. Anyone who has met Julie in any of these establishments, please get in touch. Not that you attend them yourself, but if you do know Julie and you have any information for us, please get in touch.
Well, Paul, thank you very much, and please do cast your mind back to that night, Tuesday, October the 29th, in Ledgate. 0500 600 600 is the number to the studio, and of course the calls are free. Alternatively, dial the incident room in concert on 0191 386 9011. Well, that's the number for any of our cases. The lines are open until midnight, and you'll find other numbers listed under CFAX on page 621. Our electronic mailbox is Crimewatch UK at BBC, or more precisely, CWUK at bbc.co.uk. And if you've any information on crimes that we haven't covered, try Crime Stoppers. They're on 0800 555 111. That's Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111.
We'll be back at 11:35, we hope, with some results. That's Crimewatch Update, 25 to 12. If that's beyond your bedtime, well, we hope to see you a month from now, Tuesday, the 13th of May, an auspicious date, easy to remember. Until then, don't, at least on our account, have nightmares. Please, sleep well. Good night.
Good night.